Hello everyone, this is part 16 of What If Naruto Had the Ninetails and the Shinigami sealed inside him, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Kyoraku and Scourge clashed blades, the chainsaw staff began to rotate, or whatever chainsaws do, and grind the captain's sword. Kyoraku was knocked back but landed safely a few feet from his opponent as he charged once again. Once Kyoraku weakly charged at the mutant person, he was slammed in the stomach by an end of the chainsaw staff. Blood went everywhere as he fell to the ground. He eventually got up. This isn't like him, he's weak, he can't fight, Nanao said in a worried tone. Will he be all right? Orohime asked. Naruto stayed silent. Scourge took no time standing and leaped into the air. If it wasn't for Kyoraku rolling over, his face would have been grinded. Kyoraku espered both of his swords into his opponent, then used his Ryatsu as a shockwave to throw Scourge back, slamming into the wall. Kyoraku panted, then raised his arm using a Kido Naruto couldn't make out but realized it was Heian, the 54th Hado. The blast of purple spiritual energy slammed into Scourge. Kyoraku hopefully thought he was S until he found a shadowy figure leap into the air once more. This thing doesn't know when to give up, Kyoraku muttered as he leaped into the air weakly. He's weak, why is he fighting? He knows that he won't win, unless. Kyoraku no. Nanao shouted and ran toward him. Kyoraku took one last look at Naruto and smiled brightly, not his usual taunting sarcastic smiles, but more of an, I'm proud of you, smile. A smile that just screamed emotion. He was then slammed by the chainsaw staff with a severe injury as he slammed into the wall. This time, he didn't get back up. Kyoraku, Kyoraku. Naruto screamed, knowing that Scourge had ended his sensei's life, another one of his dear teachers, but he wouldn't let this one go. He balled his hands up into a fist and growled, looking at Scourge, who stood there blankly. I'm going to S you apart, with my own hands. Naruto flashed, stepped in front of Scourge and grabbed the mutant's head, slamming him into the ground repeatedly. He then threw him up in the air and flash stepped once more, punching him and punching him. He backflipped, having the tip of his foot touch Scourge's chin, then slamming Scourge into the ground and kicking him repeatedly. He leaped up once more as his hand engulfed in flames. He was so angry he didn't need to call out a Kido. The Sukachoi just came to him as he slammed it into the mutant's back, leaving a hole in its back. Naruto screamed and began to punch the corpse. Nanao and Orohime used all their strength to pull him away from it. It's over, Naruto, there's nothing we can do, he's S. Nanao shouted, feeling the boy's muscles tense up, trying to break free, but knowing that it wasn't the right thing. He was the first person who took me in, I was in his squad, he taught me everything I know. Why did he have to S? Why did he go and fight? We could have made it out alive, all of us. Son of a B. Naruto shouted as he began to punch the ground, kneeling down as tears flowed down his cheeks. He did it on purpose, he didn't want to be S. Wait, he has faith in you that you can solve all of this, he thinks you've surpassed him, he wants you to solve this and bring the Soul Society back into its glory days. He told me that when we were in the cell. Don't fail him, Nanao said, her voice cracking as she held tears in, wiping them away with her sleeve. Yeah, this just gives me more of a reason to stop this. Come on, we got to find Ichigo, Naruto said as he stood up and began to walk, wiping the tears with his sleeve. Are you all right about all this? QB asked from inside his mind. I don't know, I just don't know, but what I do know is my goal. I don't want to fail her. Ichigo must mean a lot to her and I don't want anyone else's today. Naruto answered as he walked faster, stopping for Nanao and Orohime to catch up. After a while, Aizen, Jin and Tuzan appeared above Las Noches to view the battle. They haven't seen Arturo, so they thought he didn't know where they were. Jin looked at Aizen's hand and found a black needle-like shard in it. What's that? Jin asked. Aizen lifted his hand so that they could see. A shard, from the Hogyoku. I want to test something out on someone, but first I have to flush him out. How are you going to do that? Tuzan asked. Covering this area in a big black box. Hado 90 Kurohitsugi, I need all of you to channel your Ryatsu in this one. Aizen asked as Tuzan and Jin did as he instructed. A huge black box covered Las Noches. So is Ichigo over there? Naruto asked, pointing over to a lone tower, one of the few that is still standing. Yes, from what I know he is fighting an espada. I don't know if he's still Ali. Orohime stopped as she looked up. The sky turned pitch black. What's going on? Nanao asked as she stumbled, hardly able to see where she is going. This is no eclipse, can't you feel it, Nanao? We're inside a hado of some sort, but there's only one that's like this, which means. Naruto saw a purple light and looked back to see millions of long skinny accurate needles piercing through everything. We gotta get out of here. Nanao, take Orohime and go'll get Ichigo. It's too dangerous to go out to the tower now, you'll s. Nanao said. I'm not letting him s either. Naruto said as he flash stepped away. Nanao scoffed as she grabbed Orohime's hand and ran. Yoroiki began to flash step toward Nanao. Once she reached her, she grabbed her hand. I can see better in the dark, let me be your eyes, she said as they ran faster. Arashi watched as the area got pitch black and the needles began to strike the far south part of Las Noches. Seems like Aizen is getting impatient. Looks like our fight will have to wait, Dante, he said as he flash stepped off. Oh, you little s. Now I'm stuck here, damn, Dante said as he frantically wiggled. The ground became a huge crowd of remaining Arrancar, Arashi's men, the wizards, and Sasuke running toward the exit of this big black box. They knew there was an exit because they found out it was not solid due to the sun faintly shining through. They also began taking cheap SS at each other and some fell to the ground. It was chaos. Naruto calmly flash stepped across ruins and toward the tower. He shouted out Hado 31 Sukachoi and threw it on top of the tower so he could see if he was close. He quickly began to flash step toward it and eventually crashed through the tower. All he saw was a Arrancar with black wings fading into mist as a shirtless and very damaged Ichigo watching. Ichigo, Orohime sent me to find you, I hope you're not too hurt, Naruto asked. Huh, who are you? Ichigo paused and faintly saw Naruto, remembering him from when he was in Hukomundo with him. Oh, it's you? I'm fine, but Ishida is pretty damaged right now, he said while pointing at the Quincy. Well, if you haven't noticed, someone outside made a huge hado. That big black box and needles are striking every inch and it's coming closer. We have to get out, now, Naruto stated as he picked up the Quincy. See, Morn. Ichigo nodded as the two flash stepped away from the tower. Naruto noticed that Ichigo's flash step was much faster than his and that sort of bugged him. He decided to simply use the flash step as a speed boost and just run, leaping along the ruins and everything. He looked behind him and saw the needles crashing the tower and heard screams of people getting SD by them. He stepped on one part of some random ruin and leaped up, flash stepping madly, reaching toward the top of the box and trying to just leap out. Ichigo wasn't paying attention to Naruto as he continued to keep a decent pattern of flash stepping and running. As Aizen, Tuzan, and Jin watched and waited for Aizen's experiment to come out, the three felt an enormous Ryatsu behind them, one to even make Jin open his eyes just to twitch. You thought I forgot about you guys after killing all your espada? Give me a break, Arturo said as he espered Tuzan through the chest, his Ryatsu radiating from the blade and making the wound even more severe. Once he retracted his blade, Tuzan fell to the ground. Just wait, Arturo, I'll give you a suitable opponent, and if you came me you could never see if you're stronger than this one, and you'll never be on top, Aizen said, the sun shining upon his glasses as he looked at Arturo with a grin. Fine, and once I'm done with him, you're next, Arturo said and waited, looking at the box as well. Dante continued to wiggle as he saw his sword, Rebellion espered, in front of him. He groaned and reached for it, eventually grabbing it as it swarmed with red Ryatsu. Not just any Ryatsu but a demonic Ryatsu that easily cut through the kiddo. He leaped up and began to run from the needles. I can feel the needles getting closer, are we almost there? Nanao asked Yoroiki as they ran. Almost, just a few more feet and we can flash step out of here, Yoroiki said as the three leaped out of the building. Now, Yoroiki released her grip on Nanao and flash stepped out of the box. Hold your breath, Nanao said as she held onto Orohime and flash stepped out of the box as well. Once Nanao made it out of the box, the light made her squint heavily. She found all the wizards out, but they were extremely tired and beaten up a bit. She then saw a cloaked figure standing a few yards away from them, looking up at the sky. Nanao walked over to the cloaked figure as the man turned around to reveal Sasuke's face. Sasuke, you're the one who tried to K Naruto, you bastard. She shouted, putting her Zanpakuto up to Sasuke's N. I'm not here to K him, I'm here to help him, whether you trust me or not is your problem, but it would be common courtesy to get that sword out of my face. Sasuke calmly said, watching as the Shinigami lowered her blade and looked at him, and then walked back to Orohime and Yoroiki. Naruto reached his hand out for the tip of the box, his fingers reaching the top of the box as he used his Ryatsu to boost him forward out of the box. Naruto panted as he leaped high in the air. He looked to his left to see Jin, Aizen, and Arturo. This is my experiment, a visit and an Arrancar, in perfect union, or near perfect, we shall see how this goes. Aizen said as he flash-stepped toward Naruto and espered his N with the Hogyoku shard. Blackout of purple veins surrounded his N and eventually his body as his eyes widened and he dropped the Quincy and fell himself. That's Naruto, why is he falling? Nanao said, ignoring the fact Ichigo made it out of the box and Orohime ran toward him. Aizen, don't get near him Nanao, I don't know what he's done. Yoroiki stated as she felt Dante's presence behind him. What did I miss? Dante asked as he saw Yoroiki pointing to Naruto falling. He groaned as he ran toward Naruto. Idiot. Don't do that Dante. Yoroiki shouted. Who's that? Nanao asked. I'll explain later. Naruto began to fall faster and faster until he crashed into the sand, which raised everywhere. Dante felt a huge Ryatsu that halted him and well intimidated him almost. He stepped back as a white pillar espered through his shoulder. He immediately slammed to the ground. The pillar was more like a tail as 8 more espered the ground. Aizen, what did you do? Yoroiki muttered. A visit and an Arrancar, fusing all of his abilities into one being. Yes, this is the perfect being. A suitable challenge for the first every Arrancar, don't you think, Arturo? Aizen said, grinning as he looked at Arturo, who closed his eyes and smiled. The smoke cleared once the white tails rose from the sand. There were 9 tails. A fox's skull was on top of the being's head and the jaw of a fox was loosely hanging from the being's chin. He had regular white shoulder pads and basically white armor. His fingers were claws and his feet were like a fox's. Short and tattered white wings were resting on the back of the being. Black veins surrounded the whole body. The area between the N and shoulders had 2 red fang-like designs that came down to the being's stomach. You could see some of his hair, which was a faint blonde and almost looked white. Once the male looked up, his skin was a bit of an aqua tone to it with a teeth or so showing even with his mouth was closed. His pupils were yellow and the part of his eyes which was usually white was black with red blood vessel things, the red vein thingies that come when your eye is like strained or something, appeared. The training wheels are off Naruto, do whatever you want now, Aizen said, dropping the Hogyoku shard. N Naruto. Nanao silently said, looking at the figure standing where the blonde Shinigami fell. Sasuke stared at the figure as well. He looked down to see the shard Aizen dropped and was a bit shocked. Knowing that Nanao and the others could hear him, he said, this is bad. Aizen espered Naruto with a shard from the Hogyoku. He's half Arrancar and half Vizard, but he has no self-control with the 2 beings struggling for control. He can strike any one of us at any moment, Sasuke said, looking at Dante's body, who was bleeding, piercing by one of the tails which now had black veins and a red streak on them. Naruto looked to his right and upwards, seeing the black-cloaked and orange-masked man he was once afraid of, Arashi, the man who killed his second sensei Jiraiya, and the wielder of his Zanpakuto. There were a lot of things he hated about that man and now he could do something about it with ease. He flashed-stepped in front of Arashi, who immediately and nonchalantly put his sword up to Naruto's N. Naruto gently grabbed the blade, then in a rash and deep voice he said, that's my sword. The blade turned white and 5 white spikes LD through Arashi with enough force that it shattered his mask. He leaned closer, then said, great, now I can see your face as I watch you. Naruto grabbed the blade of his sword and yanked it backwards, which sped Arashi's arm clean off. He then placed his right hand on Arashi's chest. His Arrancar hole was on the top of his right hand as a red orb formed in that Arrancar hole. That hole made a Sero, which blasted Arashi away, and thus the threat of Arashi was over. Bravo, bravo. I can't wait to see what you'll do next, Naruto, Arturo said, grinning as he extended his hand and a black beam in the form of a sword came out. Darkness, all I can see, is darkness. Is this my subconscious, tainted by the power of the Hogyoku, by becoming an Arrancar? Was this how Sasuke felt, I wonder? Naruto thought as he plummeted down into the darkness as he eventually fell. but there was no ground beneath him, just more darkness. He blinked twice and saw two figures standing beside him. One was the spiky-haired white man with the blue coat who was in Yamato, and the other had wavy red hair and a strapless black top with her orange bottom dress thing. She wore gloves to her elbows and extended her hand out to Naruto. Need a hand? She asked, her voice similar to Kyuubi's. Naruto grabbed her hand and lifted himself up. Kyuubi? He asked. She nodded. Naruto looked over to the blue-coated man, Virgil. The name felt awkward when he said it, but he knew it was his name. He nodded. Naruto looked behind him and saw a screen of some sort that was viewing what was happening in Las Noches. Where are we? He asked, not able to keep his eyes off the screen. Well, we're in your subconscious. You have been shunned from the Hogyoku, so have we all. It's a fusion of all our abilities, my massive amounts of energy, Virgil's swordsmanship and speed, your inner hollow's well ability so to say, and your memories and facial appearance. Kyuubi explained. So we're just stuck here. Well, yeah. I feel so useless. What if he destroys the wrong people? What if he turns on Yoroiki or Nanao? There isn't much we can do about it, Kit. Barriers have been placed by the Hogyoku so we can get into control it, and if you were to control it, the power might overwhelm you and you'll either get consumed again or just explode. You gotta be kidding me. Naruto shouted as he walked until he felt a wall, then used his Ryatsu and placed his hands on it trying to break through. Arturo and the hollowed Naruto began to clash blades. Once Naruto thrusted his sword to the left to disconnect the clash, the energy beam faded. Naruto then sent a punch straight into Arturo's gut, making him fly high into the air. As he was flying, Naruto began to flash step in a zigzagging pattern until he put his leg behind Arturo's knee and grabbed his face with his hand with the Arrancar hole. Instead of slamming him down, he made another Sero, which did the takedown for him. His power, how much has it increased? Yoroiki uttered, feeling Dante's presence standing beside her with some blood trickling from his stomach. Dante kept his eyes fixed on the hollow Naruto, then said, when I first met him, compared to my Ryatsu, I could hardly feel his. It was like a faint whisper, but now I think mine is now the whisper. No man could hold that much Ryatsu. It's impossible, which raises the question, how is he doing it? You little brat, Arturo said as he got up, his face a bit battered, but it didn't faze him at all. Naruto let out a laugh. With a distorted voice he darted downward towards Arturo, who simply flash-stepped away and watched as he crashed into the sand. Arturo grinned as he saw the ground that Naruto crashed glow red. Black veins then stretched across the area as well. What the hell? Yoroiki said as she looked at the black veins, then felt a rumbling in the ground. We have to get out of here, now. Yoroiki said as she, Dante, Oroheim and Nanao ran. Nanao looked back to see Sasuke not make a move but still watch the fight, standing directly under the black vein. She stopped, then began to shout his name. He looked over his shoulder as the black veins began to rise as tendrils of some sort. Nanao then ran but was LD straight through the shoulder blade with one of the shadow things. The Uchiha stood on the vein as it lifted. He remained calm and simply used it as a ride to get to Arturo. Darkness engulfed his hand as he got closer. Nanao was also lifted and was then in Naruto's sights. Naruto had blasted himself upwards with a mini Sero, the black veins on his body stretched out and used as an attack to attempt and impale Arturo with spiky shadow tendrils. The tendrils that came to him, he simply unsheathed his Zanpakuto and did rapid SS to chop them down. They then retreated back into Naruto. Once Sasuke got near Arturo, he punched the air to send a dark fist at Arturo, back-fisted it away. Little did he know that his fist was pure black. Once he found out, Sasuke smiled and closed his fist to make Arturo's hand explode, and once the darkness retreated, it wasn't there. Arturo growled, while Sasuke chuckled. He was then SD in the stomach, then wheel kicked into the ruins while a blast of Ryatsu hit Sasuke hard, making him cough up blood. The Ryatsu was more powerful and wild than a regular Arrancar or Shinigami for that matter. The next tendril to come was the one Nanao was impaled on. Arturo simply SD her then the tendril as he retreated back to Naruto. Hey Kit, you might wanna see what Arturo just did, Kyuubi said as she watched the screen and Naruto's futile attempts to break the barrier. Naruto walked over to the screen. Since the screen was in first person, he saw his hollow arms holding Nanao, who was bleeding from the stomach and the shoulder. What happened to her? She stopped to see Sasuke standing on one of your tendrils, and when it raised as she ran again, it impaled her. Virgil explained. Sasuke, Naruto was surprised that he was still alive and paused the room, then turned red as it shook wildly. Naruto shouted, then ran to the barrier and began to punch it. You could tell he was becoming drained from using his energy into trying to break this barrier. He's getting angry, Virgil stated. Obviously, Kyuubi said as the two watched Naruto. Hey, I wouldn't do that, Naruto. The more energy you waste here and you'll fade away, giving this hollowed form 1 out of 3 controlled. A voice said as a hologram-like figure came toward Naruto. The figure was in fact Naruto's inner hollow, who was wearing white Shinigami robes and a black captain's haori, keeping the appearance of what Naruto was when he was a captain for that brief time. Weren't you fused with me? How are you here? Naruto asked, slowly stopping and panting. I was split when Aizen espered you with the Hogyoku and automatically absorbed, but after a while I developed enough energy to transmit my appearance and other stuff like a hologram to talk to you guys. Aren't you all lucky? Kyuubi and Virgil paid no attention, but Virgil let out a low snarl. Awesome, Naruto's inner hollow said as he looked at the screen. Seems like your rage has gotten to that hollow form of you. Naruto yelled while he held Nanao. The yell was distorted and made his Ryatsu grow to an insane rate. He laid Nanao down and flash-stepped toward Arturo and sent a barrage of slashes toward Arturo, making little cuts lightly come to his arms and everything. Arturo continued to parry his attacks, and after all the force's sword began to crack, Arturo's sidekick Naruto then slashed him with an energy beam. He sheathed his sword and placed his hand on Naruto's chest. Before he could do a Sero, Naruto had already espered Arturo through his stomach. I'm going to S you into pieces, you trash, Naruto said, spinning his sword through Arturo's midsection, then espered his shoulder blade, placing his foot on his chest and slicing his sword upwards. Naruto took a sigh, then began to S repeatedly, giving Arturo no chance to regenerate. He then pumped Ryatsu into his blade and SD even harder. He then pulled out Yamato and began to S. He began to laugh, which then turned into a menacing growl as he continued to S. Blood began to lightly get on his hollow armor. This is for all those Shinigami you killed, Arturo, the captains, the Soul Society. You ruined it, you destroyed Ukitake as well. I won't forgive you ever. He then pumped a large amount of Ryatsu into the swords and slashed the pieces that were Arturo. Whoa, he just got owned, Naruto's hollow form said. He's just going to regenerate, Virgil said. How do you know? Arrancar, if chosen regeneration over than power, can regenerate insanely fast. While this thing was slashing him, he was regenerating at small and steady rates, and now he has enough to regenerate once more fully at least. He won't have much energy to spend on regenerating his full body after that. He'll be more careful now. Once Arturo regenerated fully, he immediately let out a large black Sero, which came hurtling toward Naruto, who slammed both blades into the Sero to try and send it at a different direction. Yamato began to crack as the Sero became more intense and Naruto pumping more energy into the swords. Arturo began to laugh. Has all your power gone that quickly? Was that Ryatsu just for show? Naruto growled as his blades glowed red from heat and Ryatsu. Naruto saw the black Sero begin to consume him as he them simply spun around, rapidly diving inside the Sero. His hollow armor began to chip off and sometimes chip off in chunks as he dived into the most intense parts of the Sero. Virgil grabbed his sides and winced. Kyuubi immediately saw and asked what was happening to him. He said, "It's the sword. I take a beating just like it does, but if it breaks I'm set free. If it breaks I'll be able to help Naruto, but once that happens." Virgil shook off his pain like it never happened and breathed out as he began to fade. I don't know what it'll do once he sees me and him alone. Won't be pretty. Wait, wouldn't that chaos? Naruto said, a bit freaked out, but didn't get an answer as he faded away. As Naruto saw Yamato break, he simply let go of it and continued to spin rapidly. Once he was out of the black Sero void, he slashed Arturo through the chest, then spin kicked him back a ways. Naruto's hollow arm was chipped off greatly at the arms, the chest and legs, revealing aqua-tinted skin. Naruto growled and gripped his sword as his Ryatsu raised once more and he dashed towards Arturo as they began to parry each other's attacks. The Sero then simply dissolved as Virgil spun out of it, Yamato in pieces as Virgil sighed. He then took out a pair of gauntlets and greaves and dashed toward the two. He appeared behind Arturo and back-fisted him back. Naruto charged at Virgil and he axe-kicked him downwards. Too easy, Virgil said as he saw two red Seros come toward him. Virgil back-fisted one Sero and stomped on the other. The greaves and gauntlets taking a bit of damage, but Naruto's Sero was redirected at him and the other Sero was directed at Aizen and Jin. This fight is getting out of hand, should we retreat? Jin said calmly. Not yet, I wanna see how this fight goes. Aizen responded, a bit interested even more now. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.